So technology is a huge piece of loyalty programs, an absolutely huge piece. Whether it's simple enablement, I mean, how do we have a points bank and keep track of people's status earning and things like that? How do we onboard partners so that you can earn with a partner or everyday earn and redeem partners even as well, and have that interacting? And in a lot of cases with large legacy programs, we're still doing monthly batch text files for, to process these changes. Now, maybe there's nothing wrong with that. There might not be anything wrong with that. But we've also talked about things like personalization for years. And we all get the same junk bulk email from programs day in, day out that are completely irrelevant, and the extent of the personalization might be our name, and maybe a field with our current points balance that is 3 or 4 weeks old, and our status level, again, 3 or 4 weeks old. That's about the level of personalization we see, despite what we've talked about. So the challenge for our session today, and I'm going to hand over to Harald to lead it, is to explore practical solutions that aren't just talking about fancy buzzwords, but are actually meaningful takeaways for us as program managers or people that work in programs to think about how can we improve our day-to-day jobs and our engagement with our customers. Harald.
Thanks, David. So hello again, London. Welcome back to this session. My name is Harald. I've worked 20 plus years in Lufthansa Group, whereof 10 years of them I was responsible for Miles & More, which basically is what qualifies me for moderating this panel. Since 2021, I'm a partner in Envolved. Envolved is a very small boutique consultancy in Germany that focuses only on customer centricity management, and basically in industries like travel, finance, retail, and fashion, all the industries that run the loyalty programs. Coming back to what David said, let's get practical. I think the point with the buzzwords is that in all the conferences I have attended, the question always was, we have this technology, what can we do with it? But I think we should go into the issue, into the topic more from where do we have a problem that we can solve, and how can technology help us solving this problem? I'll give you a practical example. Yesterday, when I wanted to fly to London, I really, shame on me, did a really rookie failure. I was at the check-in without a passport. And yeah, I had my German ID card, which in Europe is basically okay, but not in the UK. So no chance, and I was in Munich, no chance in flying to London. So I had to go to Frankfurt by car, because I don't live in Munich, but in the near of Frankfurt, some hour outside of Frankfurt, grab my passport, go to the airport, and then take an evening flight here to be here. Technology could have solved this problem very easily if we would have electronic, real digital passport. We don't have it. So that is one example where technology could really overcome practical problems. So that's what we want to discuss here in the panel. And I mean, we've had a very, very interesting day so far with lots of discussions. And I think we come back to many of the issues that we already touched on. But it's like, as we in Germany say, peeling off the onion. So we go one onion to the next slice, and always a little bit deeper. When I prepared for the panel, first I realized, so welcome to this, to all the panelists here, there is no one coming from being responsible for a program. So you're all basically coming from the outside. Then I was asking myself, is this a good thing or a bad thing? And I think it's a thing. It's a thing. And I think the thing, so to say, is to find the sweet spot on the one hand side to really think outside the box and bring in your expertise into this panel, for you, the audience. On the other hand, not to be too far away from what is practically able to be implemented also and has a relevance then for all the program managers here. So welcome to the panel. We have 4 wonderful and very competent panelists. I will shortly introduce every one of them and give him then the opportunity for a quick shot on his view on this topic before we go into the discussion. So on my right, we have Denis Hure, or Denis Hure.
Thank you.
How he would be spelled correctly because it's French. We are the same age, so we one of the early generation Xlers, so to say. And he's the CEO and co-founder of Reward the World, which is his third startup after he had a long and successful corporate career. And in his private life, he's passionate about magic. He's a member of the magic circles here in London. And now comes the real challenge for me in this panel. And the Fédération Française des Artistes Prestidigitateurs in Paris.
Indeed.
So over to you, Danny. What is your perspective?
So I'm always happy to give a concrete example of using new technology to enhance, or to answer a typical problem. In our company, we will always take the steps to say, if it exists somewhere else, don't reinvent the wheel. So before I can give an example and we can go into all this discussion, when we created our service, we wanted to build something future-proof in terms of technology. The challenge the market has right now is we need to deliver more features, more content in our case because we're a reward provider, faster, and being able to onboard new technology extremely rapidly. And so we defined an architecture at the time. Since then, some people a few months ago named this type of architecture being the MAC architecture, which means microservices, API first, cloud native headless architecture, which typically allow anyone, when you have such an architecture in service, to plug and play new product service features. Okay. So we're able to, we're of course working on AI, and I'll give you some example, but I think, unless you have the right architecture, it's difficult to test new technology and implement them for the benefits of the users.
Okay, thank you very much. To the right, we have Len Covello. He is the Chief Technology Officer of Engage People, and he's a lifelong entrepreneur, having founded his first startup when he was 18 years old. And he has a passion for creating web-based applications to help companies make data-driven decisions, benefiting not only the business, but also the customer. So tell us, what is your view overall on the topic?
I think on the topic itself, and John, we talked about this earlier, is technology simply a tool? And I think most technologists will look at it this way. So really, a lot of times people come in with a solution looking for a problem. So specifically these topics, when we work with clients, is just give us your problems. Let's start with a whiteboarding session with your problems. And you can address a lot of those with existing technology. So back to what Denis said about the fact if you've got an underlying framework that'll support the ability to bolt things on, you could solve a lot of problems with existing technology. So, we talked about blockchain for years, and a lot of people said it was a solution looking for a problem. That's probably not 100% accurate, but you needed to know what you were trying to solve first before you advocated the solution. And I think with AI now, and it'll be a topic we'll discuss further, is there's a lot of things you can do with this, but fundamentally, we still haven't addressed simple problems. Content being sent, the personalization, right? It's bang on. It's simply an email that just replaces a name with a variable and a points balance with a variable. We've got generative AI. We can do a lot with that. But there's still all these organizations here today sitting with call center problems, operational problems that we can address with this technology before we look into the future about building some grandiose program out there that people are blue sky thinking. So my perspective is let's deal with the real problems we have in operating the business with the technology that's available.
Okay, starting with the problem. Good point. So to my left, we have John Knight. He's the European co-founder and managing director of Smartmedia Technologies. And he told me that he loves sailing, and he loves also restoring old boats. And he's also a decent musician, piano player, which is something we have in similar. Not that I play piano, but I can play guitar. So we could team up and build a small band, so to say. John, what is your view?
Fantastic. My piano playing is usually improved by the consumption of alcohol, so I'm going to get that one out there straight away. I mean, I think that I echo what Len said around technology effectively as tools in the toolbox. And listening to David's listing off all of those different sort of technologies, extended reality, blockchain, augmented reality, so on and so forth. That probably is half of my responses, so I better not, I'm going to have to rip up my notes. But all of those technologies fundamentally help around consumer engagement. And what we do as Smartmedia Technologies, we've built a technology platform which enables businesses to directly engage with consumers in a much more meaningful way. What that means is that we can use this technology both for marketing purposes, for always-on marketing, and for loyalty. So a lot of the use cases and the things that I'll talk about, I don't segregate marketing and loyalty because they're all around that single engagement with the customer.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, on my left side, we have Piotr Kozlowski. He's the Vice President Consulting Loyalty Solutions at Comarch. We also have something in common because he was working with Lufthansa Consulting in 2007 to 2009, and I worked for Lufthansa from 99 to 2020. And besides his business profession, he is also a lecturer, air transport market at the Czechoslovakian University in Krakow. So, Piotr, great to have you on the panel. What is your view?
Yeah, that's so interesting thing. So for majority of you probably know us as Comarch as a provider of the loyalty platform with various components that support your propositions. Talking about the technology, I think we can approach it from really like two angles. On the one hand, we can kind of as a variety of different vendors here listen to the problems that the industry really has and try to solve it. But on the other hand, if you look at the biggest breakthroughs in our global economies, they've been happening by, we can call it coincidence, yeah? So if you look at the steam machine, it wasn't initially created for the purpose of improving the productivity. If you look at the internet, it definitely wasn't created for what we use it for. It was pure military communication, right? So I think in the world we are operating in, I think technology sector overall and the software technology sector have to have that freedom to also experiment, knowing that some of our experiments, I mean, will not hit. Yeah, I think blockchain is a good example. Was it a buzzword? Was it technology? Was it solving a problem? Well, maybe it was one of those solutions that didn't properly hit the market. Yeah, but we didn't know back then whether it's something that can, grow to something very valuable. Now we have this buzzword of the AI. Yeah. I think we'll probably talk later, what sits behind it. But it's probably the same story. I mean, is AI going to be a steam machine and it will change and transform the economy in the way steam machine did in the 19th century? Is it going to be a TV that completely changed the way we communicate between ourselves and how we commercially merchandise our products? Is it going to be equivalent to maybe big data, which is just another form of how we analyze the data and take a reasoning out of that? We don't know it yet. We know there's something there. There is a great opportunity to be picked up from broadly understood AI, but I would call it more rather machine learning in our world. Yeah, if we go from buzzwords a little bit down to practical aspects, but something is out there. Yeah, we just have to experiment and see where it takes us. I think Henry Ford had a very good saying. If you only listen to customers, and if we were at the beginning of the 20th century, if we would ask people what they want, they would say they want a faster horse. I mean, we had to create a car to show them that there is an alternative of how we can provide mobility, and that transformed the entire world pretty much. Yeah, so I think we should have that element of a freedom. Yeah, let's try to see if those things which are today buzzwords pick up. Yeah. Okay.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So then let's go a little bit more into detail. John, you mentioned the topic of communication and also of engaging with customers. And if you think about the new customer groups, where all the loyalty programs are looking, how can we engage not only Generation X, but also the Generation Y and the younger ones, Gen Z. Are there any practical solutions that can help airlines and hotel program providers to better communicate, personalized. You mentioned, or David mentioned this, yeah, we know your status, we know your miles, but it's not really a personalized communication. But what's out there in the market that could help?
Well, firstly, it's not just airlines that have this problem.
Yes.
It's everybody across the travel industry, everybody across the retail sector, and even looking into the sports and music industry have the same challenge around engaging with fans, which is how do you engage on a personalized basis in a way that means something to the individual customer. I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to data, right? You need to have a pattern in order to understand as much as you can about that customer. And obviously, with data, there are some thorny issues around GDPR that we need to be mindful of at all times. But if you look at how do you collect that data, what data can you use in order to offer that much more targeted and personalized experience? Fundamentally, there's two buckets as I think about it. There's third-party data, which is data that can be acquired through, through media, through social media, that can tell you about a customer. As long as you can link to an email address, you can find out, whether or not they like dogs or cats and all of that associated relevant information for an airline. But it does give you some idea as to who you're dealing with. But fundamentally, the data that has the most value is first-party data. And that's obviously data that you collect as a brand, as an airline, from your customers. Now, customers aren't unhappy to give an airline meaningful, relevant data, as long as they feel that they're getting value from that exchange. And I think the challenge that we've seen over the Web 2 world is that brands like, organizations like Facebook have made a huge amount of money monetizing all of our data without us actually having a return from that financially. So with an airline, if you can get small nuggets of information from people by just micro surveys, a little question here, a little question there. For example, if you know that a passenger is flying off to Malaga, you can ask them a little quick survey. Hey, in order to earn some more points, in order to earn some tokens, a chance to get an upgrade, answer these questions. Why are you going there? Are you going there to play golf? Are you going there to go sailing? Are you going there to chill out on the beach? And all of that gives you a pattern of that user. And that's where our technology comes in, because we're very good at incentivizing those little micro moments of engagement. But then, obviously, you've got this data and you need to do something with it. And this is where I'm with you, Piotr. I prefer the phrase machine learning than artificial intelligence. But this is where machine learning comes in terms of spotting patterns within that data. Okay. That means you can then deliver much more targeted engagement.
So basically, the idea is to have little, small incentivations to get more data.
Yeah.
And with the data, get a better feeling for various customer groups and bringing yourself into the position to better address those customer groups.
That's good.
Yeah. Anybody who wants to comment on that?
Yeah. Well, I think before communicating to the user or the consumer, there's plenty of omni-channel communication solution today, and it's actually very rare that the loyalty program will use an omni-channel. You need to ask the user or the consumer, how do they want to be communicated through? Do they want to get a WhatsApp message, an email, an SMS, a Facebook Messenger? So, I think you need to listen to the client and ask them how they want to be communicated to. And then you can go into maybe this questionnaire, or, I also believe that there's an exchange to have with the user in terms, if you provide us that, we'll provide you that. You're flying to that city, I'll give you the top 10 restaurants. Or, there's always a give and take solution. And then, of course, AI will allow you to communicate in a language they understand, okay, in a lot easier way than it was in the past. So I think it's a combination of different things, but the channel of communication has to start with what method of communication.
Yeah, I think that what you mentioned about the various channels of communication, basically the idea is, what is the channel that the consumer really wants to get communication by?
I'll give you an example. Yeah. At home, I have a 16 and 14 years old girl, and I sent them a WhatsApp the other day. And an hour later, I still don't have an answer. So I called them from my office home, And I said, well, why didn't you answer my WhatsApp? I said, Daddy, it's WhatsApp. It's for old people. And, if you don't send me a Snapchat, forget it. So, we had to have that negotiation, okay?
Same in my family.
Okay,
Same in my family. And I remember discussions within the airline industry. I mean, every additional channel of communication needs to be serviced. So you need to have somebody who takes care, somebody who basically communicates information, answers, and also, I mean, customers tend not only to communicate the way it was thought, but they just bring in whatever they have in mind.
Yeah.
So you have to then try to find out what is really the problem and then bring it into the organization at the right point.
That's what the omni-channel communication
Yes.
tools are for, because in one place, you can communicate across all channels. So you don't need to have someone for WhatsApp and someone for, SMS. Everything comes into one. I even have on my desk a German solution, very good, where I can put all my LinkedIn, Messenger, WhatsApp, everything comes even into one place for me. So that's where you need to be able to plug these services. And if tomorrow there's a new method of communication that everybody is going to onboard very quickly because the speed of adoption is faster and faster, you need to be able to add that to your stack.
If I may pick
sure.
up on the topic of personalization, I think, because it looks like we are having all the assets in our hands. We've got data, we've got technologies, and different kind of great new tools, including the AI or machine learning capabilities. But I think where especially airline or other, let's say, legacy industries where they have the biggest problem, and this is very natural because the core business of airlines was flying, not to the technology, is actually the quality of the data and the consistency of the data. So, in reality, I'm sorry for words, but if you can have a greatest tool in the middle, but if you put as an input a crap, you're going to get crap at the output, but it will be just processed by the great tools. That's the reality. And the difference that we have towards, like in the airline industry, toward modern e-commerce platforms, let's say AWS. I think it's already, we can call it old-fashioned the recommendation engine, but it still works. We're getting probably one of the most relevant offers to our email boxes from Amazon. But one of the reasons for that is not only that they have a great shiny tools, but actually their entire data is very, very well managed. And I think that's where aspiration of the industry should go to, is to start with that basic. Instead of getting a new tool, just think first, okay, what is my data policy? What is the quality of the data? How is it cleansed, Without that principle, without that fundament, we will always get at the output in Dave's email box something that is irrelevant because we didn't put enough relevance at the entrance.
Okay, thanks.
It's funny you said that because David mentioned earlier that data was a topic 5 years ago. We still haven't solved it.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got all these nice shiny tools, and we still haven't solved it. So it's garbage in, garbage out, essentially, for a lot of organizations. So consumers, they logged into ChatGPT, they saw these wonderful things, but OpenAI built this with all the data that they could bring in. And if an organization doesn't have that data, you're not going to get the same level of results. So to Peter's point, it really needs to start there.
And I think we shouldn't blame the industry for it because it's a natural thing, Historically, airlines were meant to fly, not to build digital solutions, right? But I think we've realized that one of the best evolution of that we've seen in the banking industry, that transformed from a financial institutions to effectively every bank right now probably sometimes have more developers than the investment bankers. But that enabled them to truly better provide products, personalization, because they control the entire technology stack. And I think that's maybe in 3, 4, 5 years' time, we're going to get closer to it in the airline industry. But of course, it will be very hard to get there anyway, because we carry the legacy of the industry.
Okay, just like a little summary in between. What I've learned so far from this discussion is basically start with the problem, not with the technology. Go for the basics and fix the basics first. And also what I think is very important is redefine the imagination of your business. It's not only like flying or operating a hotel, but it is a, let's say, digital business, it's a data business, it's a marketing business as well. So you need this competence and the other competences as well.
And you need to evolve your architecture. To avoid having to do everything at once, you need to do it step by step to have a solution where you can, some companies start with the marketing automation side and they split that from their core platform and then, select the right vendor, implement, and then you can move from there. And, because the divide with, it's more and more difficult to onboard the latest and greatest technology, that when you have to do it, you need to go pretty fast. So unless you have these microservices to add to your service, you're not going to be able to cope.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially airlines, but also other industries like banks have very large and very powerful old legacy systems. And if you look at airlines, the loyalty system probably has interfaces to 100 or 200 other different systems. Exactly. So it makes kind of difficult if you want to change only one process, because you have to look at 200 interfaces. That's why these microservices and all those new technologies come in. We talked a little bit about engagement and communication. And somewhere in the other panels, we talked about the long tail. Are there any specific technical solutions for airlines or program operators to also address and better market the long tail of customers, not only the high flyers?
I think so. I think there is no really specific. If we talk about engineering solutions that solves that, but I think the element that we see right now in the market to engage the long tail is to enable customers to get in more flavors of the frequent flyer program, although not flying frequently. So
the lemon.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think what we are seeing, and that goes hand in hand with the personalization. So for years, we've been trying to work out, how to deliver personalized offer, how to define the benefits package that is so personalized to a particular segment or even a person. I think there is a kind of a trend in the industry that is happening where instead of deciding through our technology and our analysts what is the best fit for the members, maybe let's give them that control. So I think we have few programs who launched recently various options of a so-called, we can call it selectable benefits. Yeah. So you progress for the activity in the airline industry. I think Norwegian has been also one of the first adopters of that some 7 years back, where instead of telling customers what they should get, whether it's fast track, lounge access, or emergency exit seat, let them pick up. Let's give them the options. Let's give them 5 different benefits. Let them choose 2. Let's pre-select them. So I call that a little bit self-personalization. So instead of trying to invent what people want, let them choose what they want. And I think that's what the industry has done with the branded first. Yeah, many years back we've been operating in a model that you were basically qualifying to the particular RPD, which encompassed your kind of the benefits or features of a ticket. Yeah, we gave control back to the travelers, that you took basically all the feature elements in a ticket, and suddenly it turned out that people are choosing various options for their own benefit, and the airlines are even more profitable. And I think, I'm not saying it's the only way that the programs could evolve, but I think there is a big opportunity, not only in the technology, but also in the power of customer to give that personalization. And I think especially for those who are infrequent travelers, to get them engaged, that's what we need to propose, because we cannot offer them the full packages that we give them, the gold, silver, platinum tiers. So maybe that's one input to that.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point that you raised, because I remember that 10 years ago, Lufthansa explored kind of selectionable benefits, and the decision at that time was to not further pursue this idea, because it started to be too complex. And also maybe from a customer point of view, too difficult to understand how this would fit then to the Miles and More program, which in itself is not really an easy one, but very complex. So that when technology comes in,
So exactly.
yeah,
So
and makes it easy.
make it a lot easier. So empowering the customer is critical.
Yeah.
So that we come back also about data, because you need to be able to action based on the data. Any marketer will tell you for data to be accurate, they need to be updated at least twice a year.
Yeah.
Any DSP will give you that information. So how do you ask your customer to update their data, their preferences, whatever you ask them, twice a year? So here I'm going to preach for my own church, but that's where micro rewards come into place, because you could incentivize or reward your customer for giving you better data to provide them better service.
Yeah, and it's a matter of technology, and it's also a matter of timing, because obviously 10 years ago the time was just not far enough to implement it, which does not mean that there is a time when it's good to go for this.
I think that you're absolutely right. It's around that, it's the challenge is collecting data and being able to then leverage that data for the personalization aspect. But if we look at the long tail, as we call it, I mean, I'd be interested to know the stats that people have heard. But I was doing some research before this session, and I saw that the number of seats on a typical flight that are silver and gold customers is less than 40%. So you've got 60% of the people on the flight who fundamentally are infrequent travelers. And the challenge is that they're probably not part of the loyalty scheme, because at the moment there's a lot of friction in terms of signing up to loyalty schemes. It's download an app, go and register, enter all this information. So I think the first thing I would say is reducing the friction of engagement, so you can start to collect those individual data points. You can start to use that incentivization for people who aren't frequent flyers and frankly aren't likely to be inspired by the lofty goal of getting to silver or gold status, because they just don't travel enough.
Yeah, and I think there's also some interesting point in it, because also in some of the earlier panels, we had a little bit this, put it on contrary. You have to deal especially with the high value flyers or the long tail. And I think it's not an either or question. It's more basically you have to do both, because you need this one customer group, because they are the high value, they bring in the money and everything that we heard so far. But also the long tail is pretty interesting for marketing reasons, but also for the incentivation and for the customer lifetime value reason. Does any one of you have practical examples how technology can make programs easier from a customer point of view?
So, we've just started, one of the challenges we have is with a catalog of 60 million rewards that we distribute over the world. So, the challenge is we plays with the search engine, and it's never like, if you know what you want, you search it, you find it. But if you actually know how many points you have or you want to spend, then that's where we started implementing some AI or testing with some AI to just, the user can say, I like food, I have 1,000 points or 10,000 points to spend, what's available in the catalog.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple effect. So now the challenge is searching 60 million references, okay, and checking that against the data on the user is, not that easy. So we still have performance challenges, but that's, we see that as a replacement of the full search technology we're using, because then you can also start having an interaction with the user, which start bringing a lot more information back to our CRM.
Okay, Len, any comments from you?
I think even back to the original topic and what Peter mentioned as well, it's the interaction.
Yes.
If we want to take advantage of technology, and we talk about personalization, the personalization is the one-to-one conversation you're having with a consumer. So do we evolve the concept of picking your rewards? My airline lets me pick the rewards when I reach a certain tier. Rather than it being the traditional step-by-step checking a box, now you can introduce a conversation. Consumers are well aware of the fact that they're talking to computers, and they've got an expectation that that dialogue's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So instead of just checking the rewards I want, I can ask questions, I can gather data, and it's not in an onerous fashion where you get the 20-question survey that you're trying to fill out, and most people abandon a certain way. And similar to what John said, if I'm a consumer and I'm about to get on a flight and I don't want to enroll in the program, what are the things that can, trigger me to download the app? And maybe I'm answering one or two questions, and I haven't necessarily enrolled yet, but I've given that ability to start collecting information. And we get back to the bringing data in. We need to bring this data in before we can get better results.
Which means you need to have easy processes.
Correct.
Yeah? Okay. I think we have like 5 minutes. Thank you. And I guess also that there are plenty of questions from the audience to our panelists. So feel free. Do we have a mic? Yes.
Any audience questions?
So means basically that all of you covered the topics so comprehensively that there are no questions left. Brings me basically.
We told them we're not going to build anything for them, so they don't like us right now.
Thank you guys so much.
But I think what again, my biggest learning is this is a panel about technology. But many of the issues that we talked about are not technology. And it's basically, what is the problem? What is basically, sorry?
It has to be.
Yeah, well, it has to be. What is the problem? What is basically the first step? So like start to walk before you start to run. And then view technology as an enabler. And that brings also this concept of timing, because when you don't have technology available that enables some developments, enhancements in the program, etc., then basically just better wait until technology is so far that, as we discussed on this selection level experiences and benefits, then better wait and not start with something crappy, but wait until you have the framework conditions and the technology that makes it easily available and easily usable for the customers.
And I believe to connect with your previous sustainable panel that you had, I think while being a lot of us on the technology side, I think we have to become more and more aware that this topic of sustainability to the software industry will arrive. I mean, we are now at the wave of adopting, AI at a tremendous scale. And I mean, if you look into the footprint more and more that we are living as an industry, although we're propelling a huge commerce, from various domains, we will become very soon as a software industry a bigger polluters than the airline industry, and it's just growing in a geometric kind of a fashion. So while we are very keen on adopting new technologies, building new technologies, I think we have to realize that if you want to channel through for personalization and train the model for it, you can consume thousands of the households' consumption of electricity for it. And it's funny that it's airlines who are on the headlines about the footprint and not the software companies. But sooner or later, we will have the point that we will have to think about it as well.
Maybe you have the better lobby, huh?
Yeah.
And it's just one last point I'd make around David's point around technologies from previous years and all the rest of it. I think let's not underestimate the power of the hype cycle. The reality is that things do explode on the public consciousness, things like blockchain, everybody talks about them. But let's not forget, it was only 8 or 9 years ago we were talking about cloud computing, and everybody thought that was a hype moment, and now everything is running on cloud. So, blockchain may have its day. We will see.
Yeah, and it may also be that even if it's not the right tool for this industry, for other industries and other processes and their challenges, it might be, and it is.
It can be transformed to something completely different technology as an evolution, and we might see it someday in a completely different spot than it is today. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.